Today we're going to talk about the problem with education. The problem with education. And we're going to start by focusing on what I consider the problem. When I talk about education, I'm talking about what's going on with our, what I call the regular objective side of education, which occurs at this level. We talked about it in our last lesson as we talked about history, geography, and languages at this level, and then we talked about science at this level. And the problem with education is that we focus far too long at this level. And most of it is about the past, what has happened in the past. Education in the past has been very insufficient and incomplete. So as a general rule, we're saying that our problem is here between these two. Not that we don't need to learn the objective reality of life as referenced by science and geography and history and languages, but we focus so much on it, and particularly of late, in the latter parts. Earlier, liberal education was designed to educate the whole person, but in recent years, the primary focus was a little incomplete and superficial. What the educational process did was, what it's doing even now, it creates this desire to educate to earn a living. But it does not give us insight into living, and we've talked about this in past lessons, especially when we talk about the importance of meditation and prayer, and we talk about the importance of experiencing sort of a subjective reality that's akin to God. And we've been sharing with you each week about the importance of the horizontal plane, the world in which we live, which is the physical plane, where most of us live. So you can see how the focus would be here in terms of our objective reality, and how to, what I call the importance of working, the importance of what I call chopping wood and carrying water. By chopping wood and carrying water, I mean that this is the physical plane, and we have to work. And the education process has been designed to teach us how to earn a living. But again, it does not give us insights into living. Art and creativity does take us to another level, or the aesthetic level of life. But we sometimes get trapped in this physical plane, and our whole education from K through 12, and even on into college and graduate school, graduate and professional school, does not teach us the function beyond that, does not teach us how to live. It is not only incomplete to a certain extent, but it's kind of harmful, because, which is where I see the problem, because at this level, if this is all I get at this level, it spawns a kind of competition. And I think that's why, to a certain extent, the educational process opens itself up to sports events and to contests and to the Olympics and to all kinds of events that are designed where we compete with one another, especially in the United States and in the Western world. We have mastered these two areas, and to a certain extent, this competition at a deep level is pretty violent. To a great extent, it creates it creates in us a sort of a spirit that's kind of unloving and uncaring. The whole effort is to be an achiever and to max out ourselves in these areas. But again, we got all of this area that we have not even covered on the map, but we spend a lot of times here. In the name of fame, we excel, and in the name of ambition, we excel at this physical plane at this physical level. Obviously, this spawns competition, and competition usually equals to conflict to a certain extent, particularly if we learn at violent sports. And that's why I'm not necessarily against gaming as such, using computer technology, but I certainly see where it reinforces this notion of competition. It reinforces the notion of conflict, and of course, conflict is what destroys joy, which you can get at the spiritual plane. Joy, which happiness, which you can get also at the spiritual plane. And even at the aesthetic level, there's a certain competition sometimes that can creep in. So that this idea, this conflict, this competition, that's spawned by a kind of education that focus on objective reality or the sciences, or to a certain extent destroys, can destroy our happiness, can destroy our joy, and it makes us a kind of human being that's not too friendly. It seems as we look through the world that there's always fighting and conflict going on. Everybody's fighting with somebody. And education as such, when it's directed in this area, what I call the problem area, is goal-oriented. What we are learning to a certain extent may not be important in terms of happiness up here or joy, but to a certain extent it's to get us ahead, to get that one house or two, to get that property, to get that car we want, to get those clothes, which all are the trappings of a physical reality or the trappings of a world in which we live. Now, what we learn perhaps is not important at all, because what is important in this learning process is the test. Again, this whole effort is driven by an examination. And usually that exam comes at various times during the year, but if you look at the K-12, you examine all the way through that process. Look at the college process, you examine, and naturally in graduate school, if you're an accountant, you got to take the if you want to be a CPA, you got to take the CPA exam. If you want to be a lawyer, you got to take the bar. If you want to be a doctor, there are professional exams that you have to pass. So to a certain extent, it just breeds more and more competition. Education kind of makes the future important, but who deals with the present? Who deals with right now? And right now, we want to experience the joy of living, the happiness of living, to deal with some emotional stability to a certain extent that can contribute to the kind of peace that we want to have in our life right now. And this competition then becomes the very style of life, conflict every day, becomes the way we look at the world and in which we live. To a certain extent, we are not in the present, and I would say that these things are in the present when we experience them, and they become most important. But this educational process leads us to focus on the future, and most of the time, the future hasn't come. Nothing is wrong with, again, chopping wood and carrying water. We're all going to have to figure out a way to earn a living. But when you take a look at how much time we spend here versus maybe here on the aesthetic level, if you have a talent or an ability, and I think we all have some talent or ability that's unexplored, or if we say we want to really be at peace, we want to be happy, we want to experience the joy of living, then I think that we would want to spend more time in the present, more time here, and this focus alone creates a sort of tremendous emptiness inside, and it's because of that emptiness that we're not able to enjoy. Now, the Forgive School again is designed to focus our attention here and here, both and especially in the present. This whole thing is about how do I live in the present? How do I get rid of old baggage, anger, resentment, and bitterness that may be keeping me from experiencing happiness, joy, unconditional love? I can get lost in the aesthetic side of it. the arts and creativity can certainly allow me to focus away and feel a sense of accomplishment. But I can get buried in this, and as you can see, if I spend most of my life doing this, studying and in school and building up this sort of a competitive aura about life, it makes it the kind of thing that I'm going to be trained to do, and I never really get a chance to spend enough time working on those things that absolutely are free, but they're things that I have to learn as well. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about the power of an exam, this whole idea of testing that comes with the educational process, and how, to a certain extent, it leads us to focus most of our attention at the objective level and leaves out the opportunity to grow spiritually.